Dear brothers and sisters, friends of justice and freedom, Eritrea holds a unique place in religious history as one of the first lands to embrace both Christianity and Islam in their earliest days. Christianity took root in the 4th century, making Eritrea, together with Tigray, among the very first nations to adopt Christianity as state religion. At the same time, Eritreans are remembered for their openness and generosity when the followers of Prophet Muhammad, fleeing persecution in Mecca, were welcomed and given refuge by the Christian king in Aksum, which was today's Tigray and Eritrea. This legacy of tolerance and sanctuary reflected a deep tradition of coexistence and mutual respect between faiths, marking Eritrea as a land where religious diversity has long been valued. For example, the Sahaba Mosque in Massawa, believed to be one among the earliest mosques in Africa, stands as a historic symbol of Eritrea's religious openness and hospitality. Tradition holds that it was built by some of the Prophet Muhammad's companions who sought refuge in Horn of Africa during the first Hijrah in 615 AD. It was known that 83 of Muhammad followers who escaped from the persecution in Mecca were arrived to Massawa, and that's why they built the first mosque in Africa. It still existed there. I will show you the photo. Its presence in Massawa reflects the warm welcome offered by Christian Kingdom of Aksum to the early Muslims, showing how Eritrea became a meeting ground for faiths. The mosque remains not only a place of worship, but also a testament of centuries of coexistence and respect between Christianity and Islam in the region. By the way, Eritrea has 50% Christian and 50% Muslim community, and they live for centuries in coexistence. Eritrea is a land with a proud history of faith, coexistence, and respect. For centuries, Christians and Muslims live side by side, not as enemies, but as neighbors, as brothers and sisters, sharing bread, water, and life itself. Even they fought together for their liberation. Ours was a society where difference of belief were not reasons for division, but foundation for mutual respect. Eritrea has a strong tradition of religious pluralism: Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Muslim, Jews, Adventist, Seventh-day, Jehovah's Witnesses, Baha'i, various Pentecostal denomination churches, faith missions, and others live side by side. For example, many of the churches at the center in the capital city were built in 1900 up to 1910. And now, most of these are totally closed since 2000 and up to 2000, between 2000 and 2005. Those who existed for more than a century, even at the center of the town, they are totally closed. It was only in recent decades, under the rule of this dictatorial Isaias regime, what called EPLF or turned to be PFDJ, with its communistic background, that this harmony tried to be broken. What had been a nation of religious tolerance became a nation of repression. Faith communities were silenced. Churches and mosques were totally controlled. And religious leaders were imprisoned simply for being faithful to their calling. This betrayal to our heritage, and this betrayal to Eritrean true spirit of coexistence. And that's why we are here, starting from these 7 Christian religious leaders, which were unjustly arrested in 2004 and 2005. And they are there for around 21 years without due process of law, without seeing a court of law. And these are human beings who were also not only religious leaders, they were also one among the elites, the creme of the society. Some among them were so indispensable to Eritrea. For example, Dr. Futsum Gobronugus, whom I know personally, he is the only psychiatrist to Eritrea. He is the only one. So he was busy in treating the Eritreans who were disturbed, who were psychologically and mentally ill because of the war, continuous war that happens in the country. He was also a lecturer in the medical school, only psychiatrist. He was also working with me in the judiciary, because when there are cases of murder, most of the time the defendants claim the insanitary defense. So we have to send to Dr. Futsum Gobronugus for this investigation. After he was arrested, almost the country was collapsed. The patients whom he is the only psychiatrist to treat them, they never get treatment. The courts, they cannot work properly. In medical school, the students, they didn't get their proper education. Another person whom I personally know is Dr. Taglab Mangisab. He's like a brother to me because he lived together in my hometown, in the same compound with my family. So this person is a doctor by profession. Also, he's serving his religion. He used to teach, to preach in Mandafara every Wednesday. So he has to travel to Asmara during weekends also, because he has to preach also in the congregation. Besides, he's a physician, a doctor. Imagine where in a country where there is lack of doctors. Another doctor whom I know also, who was also a teacher in the university, he taught us mathematics in the university, was also Dr. Dr. Kuflu Gabra Mescal. He was also an elite, one among the department heads in Asmara University. So these are, he is also working, he is also a preacher, a religious leader in Assembly of God Church. And another among these seven, Kashi Gabramedin Gabriel, he's also a scholar, a religious scholar who was a shepherd for hundreds of Eritreans, Others like Reverend Hailen Aizgi, Reverend Milian Gabrasilasse, Pastor Kidano Woldu. These are among the few, but there are also hundreds and hundreds of Eritreans who are in prison for their only crime is to be they try to exercise the right to worship, which is their fundamental rights. And we guys are here with a very heavy heart, yet with unshaken resolve to remember and demand justice, not only for these 7 Christian Eritrean religious leaders, but for those who were arrested since 1991 in the name of so many Islam clerics are also arrested, so many Jehovah's Witnesses also arrested, and they never saw, some of them even died in prison after kept for 25, 30 years in prison. Imagine. These men of God, pastors, elders, shepherds of faith, were taken from their congregation, from their families, and from the people whom depend on their spiritual guidance. Their only crime was their devotion to God, their defense of conscience, and their commitment to serve freely without bowing to authoritarian control. For more than 2 decades, 21 years, 22 years, their voices have been locked behind prison walls. Their family have been left without answers. Their communities have been denied their leaders. And our nation has been denied the wisdom of men who stood for truth. The Eritrean regime has carried out the extrajudicial kidnapping of Christian religious leaders, silencing them without due process and accountability. Instead of respecting freedom of belief, the authorities target pastors and elders, detaining them in a secret prison with no charges, with no trials, with no legal defense. This act of repression not only violates international human rights norms, but also represents an assault on Eritrean own tradition of religious tolerance, replacing with fear, arbitrary arrests, and systemic persecution designed to eliminate independent voice of faith. But let me be clear, faith cannot be imprisoned. Conscience cannot be handcuffed, and truth cannot be silenced. We call upon Eritrean authority to release these religious leaders immediately. Their imprisonment is a violation of Eritrean own constitution, a violation of international law, and above all, a violation of God-given human dignity. We call upon the international community, do not remain silent. Silence means complicity. The world must raise its voice for those who have been unjustly silenced for too long, 21 years, 22 years, without due process, without being visited by their families. And we hear in front of this United Nations, every year, sometimes 2 or 3 times, we come for demonstration, asking for justice. But I don't know why it's so much politicized in this house and no concrete action. Instead, in fact, from the European Union, from so many countries, aid is given, appeasing is given. So we are getting confused, On whom side is this United Nations whose noble ideas was founded? We were expecting to stand, so we are expecting the United Nations to stand on the side of justice, on the side of truth. It should be free from politicized. So whom is going to represent these voiceless people? Unless those who have power, unless those who have the ability to make action. So we call upon the international community again and again. And as families and brothers of this man, and to all, for those who suffer for their faith in Eritrea, we say you are not forgotten. Though we are powerless, we cannot forget you. We cannot remain without speaking. We cannot remain silent. Your tears are our tears. Your struggle is our struggle. And your hope is our hope. And we stand here. Let us renew our commitment, brothers and sisters. We will not stop until these 7 and hundreds of Eritreans, prisoners of conscience, are released. We will not stop until Eritrea became a land where faith is not a crime and worship is not a reason for change. May their courage inspire us. May their endurance strengthen us. And may justice, long delayed, too long delayed, finally prevail. So thank you very much.